Bam!
Jayson Waller here with the True Underdog Podcast, and this is the Own Your Power series. That's right. I'm going to be reading part of my book during this series. There's going to be several weeks that we're finishing this out on the Own Your Power. No excuses, no bullshit. Your time is now. This is a Wall Street Journal, Amazon, and USA Today top seller. I appreciate and love each and every one of you that have downloaded the book or bought the book. You can check out and find the book at oypbook.com. That's oypbook.com. And that stands for Own Your Power. So oypbook.com. Check it out if you want to hear more. I hope you enjoy the reading of this book because I want to know, what is your underdog story? You're going to hear mine. Get excited about it. Give feedback. Make sure you give a like. Bam! Own Your Power, Chapter 3. Principle number 3, never be held hostage. Do you feel like a victim? Are you doing that to yourself? You must be strategic in life. You must think ahead and build structures around you so you never get stuck in a situation where you can't do what you want to do. No one ever has the power over anyone. You need to be smart. You must systemize, skill up, and stand in your values so you don't get in any situation where you are held hostage. Back in 2008, I had a problem. My sales reps were expensive. They had big egos and they ran my entire home security business. I learned an important business lesson the hard way. Never let anyone get bigger than the system. I had set up a system that forced me to depend on sales reps way too much, so I was held hostage by them. Honestly, the entire company was. It was a role I wrote myself into without realizing it. You see, our company would hire these high-priced sales guys who had a great deal of experience. But every time they had a great week, the next week would be terrible. Why? Because these guys would go out and party or get lazy or comfortable. They would get paid and head to the clubs, where they would blow all their money on table service at the strip club and too much Grey Goose. The following week, revenues would plummet. Then, after a failed week, they would work hard again so sales would skyrocket. One of the sales guys, Josh, even went missing for 3 days. Everyone was worried. Where's Josh? He was missing for another appointment, his colleagues were saying. When he finally showed up, he said he'd been kidnapped. Really? He was out partying, chasing women, and doing drugs. I had to fire him. It was a pattern. I would hire these top sales reps who were young and hungry, and they would get a lot of money in their pocket. They weren't used to it, and they didn't know what to do with it. I'd built our business operations around the success of sales guys, like this, with big egos. They didn't care about the team's success. They were driven by their own wants, needs, and desires. Our company was held hostage by them. No one knew our sales process like they did, not even me. They were hard to replace. Over my years of managing teams, I've learned how people are very different in what motivates them. Some need to be patted on the back and told, "Good job." Some need to be kicked in the ass and told to work harder. Some need to be told to slow down. When I would praise the wrong salesperson, it went to their head. A lot of these high-priced sales guys started to see themselves as bigger than the company and bigger than me. I created monsters. I put the entire company in a position where they were such an important part of the business that we needed them if we were to survive. They were arrogant assholes, but I couldn't fire them. I was held hostage in my own house. You can't build a business this way. No one person should ever be bigger than the system. It might be a business, organization, or any network of people. Groups need rules to function. No one runs the show, not even the leader at the top. When you build a business around people, the problem is their heads can get too big. It can happen with managers or the C-suite leaders at the top of the org chart. It can happen in personal relationships or families too. When someone has too much power, they become bigger than everyone else, and what they do dictates the future. It's not cool. They hold everyone hostage because they have the most power. These sales guys pretty much owned me. When I finally did fire them, the company struggled. I needed to make sure it didn't happen again. I didn't want a sales rep's behavior, whether they quit, slacked off, or partied too much, to impact our ability to meet payroll. That went for installers too. If they didn't show up, we didn't make money. Or if an accounting manager quit, there was no one who knew what was going on with the company finances. In other words, I didn't want to be held hostage ever again. Those experiences taught me the never to be held hostage principle. In business and in your personal life, you can't be held hostage. It is not okay if you must surrender to someone or something. For years, I would be stuck in situations where I'd think, this isn't right. This person is dictating how we pay people. This person is dictating what we're doing here. This person is dictating how we grow. But it's my company, it's my team, it's my family. Today, we've got almost 400 sales reps. We still have a few highly paid guys who are at the top. But if one of them is destructive to the business or come into the office puffing his chest saying, you're going to pay me this or else, then I put a stop to it and say, you've got to go because we've got about 400 other people who can do almost what you can do. Today, our company is not built around one person. We're a team, and we have structures in place. We will not be held hostage, and we will win and we will learn as a team. Build a smart business structure. Never be held hostage is about building smart systems to avoid any situation where you feel you can't make the choice you want to make. In Chapter 1, we talked about choice and how you always have a say in how life goes. Here's what's also true about choice. While you always choose what to do about a situation, sometimes your choices are not win-win. And usually it's because you made bad choices in the lead-up. You put yourself in a hostage situation. When I had these sales guys, my business was dependent on them, and I didn't like their work ethic. My choices were, option 1, fire them because it aligned with my values, but then deal with the fact that the company was screwed. Option 2, keep them and compromise my values temporarily to keep the business afloat. Neither was a winning situation, but I had done that to myself. I hadn't been thinking smart. I built a business that depended on these guys to sell for us. Never be held hostage is about thinking ahead. It's about building structures around you so you don't put yourself in any situation where you are a victim of your own making. Ultimately, the never be held hostage approach is about personal freedom. How do you make sure you always have winning options? You systemize, skill up, and stand in your values. Here's what each looks like in action. Systemize. When I say systemize, I mean building safety nets and structures around you that protect you and other people. If you run a business, you should be able to fire a worker who shows up late to appointments without the business failing. In personal relationships, everyone should have the financial resources to walk out of a bad relationship so that any party can leave without serious repercussions. Systemizing means building safety structures for yourself that can keep you from being held hostage by your circumstances. Skill up. When you skill up, you are focused on always being the best you can be by learning and getting better. Let's say your boss is a jerk one too many times and your company's work culture is causing you serious mental distress. It's your responsibility to train yourself, protect yourself with skills and knowledge. Don't get complacent. If you have enough skill and resources, you can walk out at any time and find another job instead of feeling stuck. Can you believe that I didn't know what EBITDA was until a couple of years ago? In building a team around me to grow the business, I found people who helped me learn about the importance of EBITDA. You can never be scared of adding talent to your team and finding people who can fill critical roles. I've come to realize that I can't be Superman. You need a team of Avengers to really do everything well so a company like ours can prosper. Stick to your values. Rely on what you believe in. Make decisions using your moral compass. You always know what is right for you. If you're compromising what you believe in, you will feel it instantly. When you honor your personal values, you can't fail no matter what. I firmly believe that if you ground yourself in what you know to be true and you let what feels right guide you, you can never go wrong in any situation. How often have you heard someone say, "It didn't feel right, but I did it anyway"? Later, they usually end up with a sad story to tell. Remember the story I shared about faking my resume? I went against my value of integrity, and I always felt a little on edge, like I was hiding something because I was. It was wrong, I knew it, and it backfired. I compromised my own values. For me, my values have always guided me to do the right thing. Your intuition will tell you what feels right and what doesn't. Listen to that inner voice. You have an internal compass that's unique to you, and you need to follow it. When you don't know what to do, fall back on your values, and it will become clear what to do next. Let your values guide you, and you will always make the right choices. It doesn't mean you will avoid mistakes, but it does mean the major decisions you make will mostly be the right ones. Don't limit your options. Back to the options I had with my sales guy dilemma. Fire them and suffer, or let them hold me hostage. But what if there was a third option? Option 3. Do whatever the heck you want. If you've built a no-fail system, there will be few repercussions, and whatever comes up, you'll deal with it. If you check in with your intuition and use the value sniff test as a safety check, you'll ultimately be making the right call, and you'll powerfully deal with any fallout. You can stand for what you believe in. You don't have to settle for any circumstances you don't like in business or your personal life. You just must be honest about doing the work to support that decision. Don't sugarcoat it. It may suck in the short term, but you will be free and have the control back to follow your own map. A big part of owning your power is not limiting your options and being willing to roll up your sleeves, especially in business, to make a hard decision work out. I don't know about you, but I'll take option 3. But how? Let's talk about how to follow through on the never be held hostage principle. Systems keep your business safe. Think of how a sports team strategizes to increase their odds of winning. They think ahead. They prepare for multiple scenarios. They come out to the field, court, or rink with a plan. You can do the same. Find where you're vulnerable and then put systems in place to keep you safe and increase your chances of success. After the sales guy debacle, which, by the way, happened more than once, I built Power Home Solar. For my third business, I declared it wouldn't have 1 or 2 rock stars. Instead, we would be a band of brothers and sisters, a rock star team. There would be no individual heroes. We would have to be the Justice League or the Avengers to succeed. A business needs to be able to both scale and replace its assets, human or otherwise, as it grows. For this to happen, everyone must be interchangeable, like cogs in a machine. No one person, position, or role in the company can be too mission critical. Now, as I continue to build this business, I do regular audits. I constantly seek to fill the gaps in the system. I watch to see if any person has too much responsibility. I always make sure we have a strong bench of players, and I keep a plan B, C, D, and E on deck. This structure applies to personal relationships too. Everyone involved needs to constantly ensure that their own needs are met and that they are safe to speak their mind at any time. No person should have the power over another, especially because they have access to more resources. The balance that constitutes a healthy team mentality also contributes to healthy relationships. Not only should everyone be able to walk away if they need to, but each person should be strong enough to do so. If we just take it whenever we're feeling held hostage, it only amplifies the power of the other person has. It only increases the negative dynamic and entitlement routine. Anybody who uses entitlement speeches is a psychological terrorist. Don't allow it. This is why safety nets are critical for everyone involved. I will not negotiate with anyone who manipulates a situation to their advantage over anyone else. I suggest you do the same. A good way to know if any relationship or team dynamic is healthy is to think about how soldiers relate to members of their squad. They are trained to operate by principle. No man left behind. Now imagine there's a group of soldiers running away from an enemy, and one guy gets injured and falls to the ground. Any teammate who doesn't go back is fighting for himself. He needs to be kicked out of the squad. You can't have that. In any relationship you build, personal or business, everyone should know why they are in it, under what circumstances they should get out of it. This creates a no hostage scenario where everyone is in the deal for the right reasons and they are empowered to be there. Any deal is only as strong as its component parts and its participants. Systems for replacements. One structure we have at Power Home Solar is we teach leaders to develop and empower their replacements. That protects the company and it frees everyone to grow. Growth is an insurance policy, while stagnation is risky. Somebody who is growing can always find work either inside a company that values their growth like ours or in new opportunities outside of it. The never be held hostage principle ensures that if one person is out, the next person is up. It makes me think of the New England Patriots back in the day. Quarterback Tom Brady is awesome, and his abilities within Coach Bill Belichick's system were a perfect match. Team success mostly relied on Brady's performance and Belichick's superb coaching, all supported by interchangeable supporting players, a next man up philosophy. At times, Brady had all-star talent, but he and Belichick largely won 6 Super Bowls over 2 decades because Brady committed to Belichick's system. They both got better with experience. They skilled up, and they stood in their values, winning. When Brady outgrew the system, he left for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Patriots had no immediate answers for losing such a transcendent player. No team would. They're left in the dust while Brady moved on, and he took the Bucs to a Super Bowl victory. No one wins anything alone. No one. And don't say boxers because the champs have epic trainers. Legendary boxing trainer Cus D'Animo was the star maker for Mike Tyson. He not only molded Tyson to become the most amazing heavyweight fighter ever, but he went beyond the role of coach and took Tyson into his home. He was a father figure. Then there was Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, Coach Phil Jackson. 6 NBA titles in 8 years using Jackson's tried and true triangle offense. I could go on. Anyone who believes they can do everything themselves is operating from an ego because they're scared and insecure. They're playing to avoid losing rather to win. And that will hold you hostage every single time. Just having warm bodies in the building isn't enough. At Power Home Solar, we're so serious about our high-performance culture that we fire a lot of people. We want people who are there because they're committed to the mission, to each other, and to their own personal success. It's why we constantly reshape the team to support those who are committed and let the others move on. Think about opening a fridge where there is spoiled milk. The one carton stinks up the whole fridge. That's what happens in a team with low performers. The people who are just there for the sake of a job, hanging on, collecting a paycheck, are stinking up the whole system. In a room of 100 people, I see distribution of work ethic that looks something like this. This chart illustrates a big truth in business and building teams. As a leader, you want to nurture the top 20% that outrun everybody else. Seek those people, and if you're doing a count and you can't nominate enough people to be in the top 20%, then it is time to make some changes. Make room for new blood and replace the ones at the bottom. Harsh truth. Nature figured it out for us. 20% of those people in almost any company are working their asses off. They're all in. They believe in culture, they are keepers, and they probably don't have a shelf life. 60% are putting in decent effort, their version of working hard. It's a little bit more than a job. They're earning what they get. They're not where the ass kickers are, but it's good enough to get the job done. It's a fair transaction. Shelf life is possible. 20% are the laggards, floating to the bottom. This group is slowing everyone else down, making excuses, pointing fingers, and not taking ownership. The harsh reality is that you must constantly and quickly cut the bottom 20% and replace them, hopefully with more ass kickers. Nature has figured it out. The herd is strong when the weakest fall away and there's room for new herd members. Cull your herd. It will keep your company strong. Systems of growth and opportunity. As Jay Samit, the former independent vice chairman of Deloitte and a guest I interviewed on my podcast in March 2021, would say, you have to future-proof you. Samit also wrote a book called Future-Proofing You, 12 Truths for Creating Opportunity, Maximizing Wealth, and Controlling Your Destiny in an Uncertain World. I got to visit Hearst Castle when I was a kid. Any guy that can have polar bears and zebras, that's living, Samit joked on the day that we sat down for our chat. That is gold. Imagine having such control of your life that no one could stop you. Samit says approaching life with a growth mindset is one way to future-proof in this way, though maybe not to the extent of having zoo animals for pets. You want to stay open and optimistic. Every day when Samit wakes up, he tells himself, today can be a better day than yesterday, and I have the power to make it so. Samit also told me, as corny as that may seem, this phrase lights up synaptic nerves in your brain and opens the opportunity. The key component is this: I have the power to make it so. If you tell yourself every day that you have the power to make it so, it's one simple way to think ahead and remain in control. You have the power to make it so. We all do. To harness this, put a simple process in place. Always seek opportunity. Approach each day with curiosity. How can I make this better? Where can I optimize? Who can I call on? Who has the knowledge I need? And how can I pull on that? What actions can I take that will shake things up, make it all feel new, and bring the unexpected? Opportunity does not arrive from out of the clear blue sky. Opportunity is nurtured and created through new actions and reinvented old actions applied newly. Opportunity comes from discarding waste and bloat through optimization and making space for something new. Bring a willingness to change, reinvent, and optimize. Skill up, grow, and expand yourself. Are you focused on your personal growth? Do you have a system in place for it? No matter how much of an A player you are on a team or in a partnership, you're responsible to keep growing, to skill up, to build equity in you. This means business skills too. Growth-minded performers don't get their futures handed to them by others. They think their own choices to stay where they are or move on to new opportunities. They decide whether they get held hostage or not. Your next year should be better than the year before and the year before that. You should be getting healthier, wealthier, and wiser. Doing this requires effort. For me, it requires going to the gym and lifting weights. It means I must talk to better business leaders. I must listen to my team and learn where I need to improve. I see a therapist to talk out my issues and work on myself. I know that if I don't do these things, I'll get lazy about my growth and put myself at risk of stagnation. When I interviewed Javon McCormick, CEO of Scribe Media, for my podcast, I was impressed by his skill-up attitude. If I work 100 times harder than you, my attitude is I'm also 100 times better than you. Yeah, I thought, mindset choices and hard work equals success, he said. Bam! Javon had a seriously tough upbringing. His father was a drug-dealing pimp, and his mom was an orphan single mother on welfare. He was raised in the slums of Dayton, Ohio, where he'd suffered incredible abuse and racism. I remember saying to myself one time in between beatings that I'm never going to get in a position in life where I don't know what to do. He scrubbed toilets to work his way to better opportunities. He eventually became the president of $2 million companies and now is the CEO of Scribe Media. No one is perfect. I am certainly not. I have experienced both failures and successes, and I don't take either for granted. I learn from the failures and I celebrate the successes. In 2015 with Power Home Solar, when we lost all that money because of a few sales guys and misguided shortcut, I was held hostage. I didn't have the skills to run the sales operations anymore. I didn't know how to go out and sell our products anymore because I'd spent my time away from the on-ground selling work. After we let them go, we struggled. We lost money. We got close to shutting down. Before we did, I fired about 80% of the company. You read that right, 80%. I started over, and I grew the business back, starting from the bottom up. Once we gained some traction, we started to flourish a little bit. In the second half of 2016, I brought Kevin Klink back. He'd been working elsewhere because we couldn't pay him. He handled the marketing while I handled the sales and operations, and it finally took off. Looking back, I certainly learned the importance of building a growth-minded team that believes in mission as much as I do. It's how we stay on top of the industry and on top of our roles and win in all other areas of our lives. I also learned that my lack of dedication could easily make me a victim. But in the end, I was held hostage by no one, and that is a magical place to be. Stand up for yourself. The never be held hostage principle can sometimes be leveraged by standing up for what you believe in. Long before the COVID-19 pandemic, when hand sanitizer wasn't cool, my wife was a germaphobe. As our relationship evolved, we got married, and then there were times when my parents would visit and get irritated by her request. Hey, you've got to take your shoes off when you come in the house. Wash your hands. Put sanitizer on before you touch the baby. What do you mean? It's not a big deal, my parents often said. You could see how they interpreted it. Oh, we're dirty. There was no ill intent, but they took it that way. At the same time, they would criticize our parenting methods, right down to the formula we were feeding our babies. I don't blame my parents for what they did. They didn't know any better. And now that I'm a grandfather, I get that way too and constantly reel myself in. I tried for years to make everybody happy. I understood how my parents felt and wanted their approval, so I tried to keep the peace. But in all honesty, I didn't accept responsibility that my kids and my wife were my primary commitment until about the age of 30. So when my parents fought with Liz and complained to me, I'd go to Liz and tell her she needed to change. Then she'd get mad at me for not defending her, and I would then go back and confront my parents. Eventually, I got fed up. I finally stood up to my parents. It was our rules, our house. I finally supported Liz and my family. My parents were holding me and us hostage. I was compromising my values to keep them happy, but in the middle of it all, I was never happy. I had made myself into a victim. One day, Liz and my mom had a tiff. Liz was pregnant with our fourth baby at the time. I was in Nevada on a business trip when I got a call from her. She was crazy upset. Your mom started screaming at me and I lost it, she said. She shoulder checked me. It wasn't violent, but it wasn't cool. It set Liz off. It set me off too. I finally put my foot down. I set boundaries. I said to my mom, just because we're blood related doesn't entitle you to anything. A relationship goes both ways. It requires give and take from both parties. It's not one-sided. It's not a dictatorship. We're done, I told my parents that day. And if you're going to keep disregarding my wife's rules in our house, we're done. You're not going to be able to see our son be born. It was unfortunate circumstance for everybody, but it had to happen for change to take. After this day, there was a rift in our family that lasted for years. My parents didn't see my son until he was almost 1, but slowly and miraculously, and with some therapy and work, both sides came around. The beauty of it is our relationships got stronger. Each party tried to understand the other side. Liz and my mom started to respect one another. And as the years have gone by, there's more respect today than there's ever been. Liz and I also became better parents. We created a safety net around our family circle. Because of the rift, I sought new ways to be a better man too. For the first time ever, faith became an important part of my life. I never went to church as a kid, but Liz did. We need church in our life, she said. She saw it as a way for me to move through the struggles I was having with my parents. She also recognized it as a structure to help the family develop healthy habits, focus on our growth journeys, and build toward a positive future. It took us a while to find a church we liked. We tried everything, you name it, even Mormon and Catholic churches. Eventually, we fell in love with one Baptist church. There, I met these dads and husbands who showed me the type of man I wanted to be. I re-proposed to my wife because she'd only ever had a shotgun wedding. Marry me again, I said to her one night. Soon after, we brought everyone together for a big flashy wedding. It was 2011 when we remarried. And the night before, the entire family was baptized together. My parents also came, which was the start of building a new relationship. They still didn't come to the wedding, which was a shame, but slowly we all came back together. Today, we have a healthy relationship. We all changed completely. To get here, we needed to go through what we did. But I had to put my foot down. I had to take away their power for them to become humble and more respectful. They're fantastic grandparents to my kids today. You always must ask yourself what is most important and protect that first. When you refuse to compromise your values and you act from that place, you're applying the never be held hostage principle. In learning to not be a hostage, I had to learn and put into practice 5 critical things. Number 1, don't be intimidated by people more educated than you. In starting my first business, I was 25 years old, and I had to learn how to lead people who were 10 or more years older than me and had gone to college. That was intimidating at first, but you learned that it is you they are seeking answers from, and you need to be the person for them. You must learn what it takes to handle that role. Number 2, don't be afraid to let go. When you build something from the ground up and know it better than anyone else, it's hard to see inefficiency happen and not want to step in and fix it right away. But I learned it's far more important to give people that opportunity and let them either sink or swim. Letting go is so hard, but it is truly what I needed to learn to take our business to the next level. Number 3, don't ever talk yourself out of saying, why not us? We have a goal at Power Home Solar, which is to be the biggest and best solar company in America. And some might say, how can that happen when a guy leading the company was a high school dropout who also had his first child in his teens? Thing is, there's never a cap on what you can accomplish. But you must put in the work. You must take the stairs. There's no elevator to success. You've got to grind. You have to want it more than the other person next to you. Look at where we're at now, tracking over $350 million in revenue this year. I'm just as hungry to keep climbing as I was when I first started, and our team is too. Number 4, you can't always be the good guy in business. There's always going to be a need to keep people in line in your business, and sometimes that means having frank discussions with people about performance. I never wanted to be that guy, but it's important to have a voice like that who can hold people accountable when it's needed. Number 5, hire and build smarter with people in different areas that need to grow. For me, one of those was adding a CFO who was able to take our financials to the next level and keep a tighter rein on expenses and operations. We now have an accounting team of 75 people that is executing at an extremely high level, and they've done great work through better automated processes and tools. Also, even in building my True Underdog podcast, we utilized a team to take the show to the next level. It takes courage and it might take time. When you apply this principle, don't expect overnight success. Sometimes it will get uglier before it gets better. Just put your head down and grind out from that place. Keep operating from your core values and beliefs. Trust yourself. You will always get what you want if you stand firm in what you believe in. Thank you so much for listening to the True Underdog Podcast Own Your Power series. Make sure you subscribe and listen next week. We'll be catching up on more of the book coming up, and you can always go to oypbook.com to get your copy of the book right now. Own Your Power. No excuses, no bullshit. Your time is now. Again, thank you to all the subscribers out there, and thank you for everyone supporting me in the book, making it an Amazon USA Today and a Wall Street Journal top seller. Bam! And that concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit TrueUnderdog.com, subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam!